Raceway for tonight's round 2 of the 2021 Season 1 Flux Motorsport GTE Championship here in the American region. Round 2 here at Willow Springs. The Jewel of the Desert, they call it. Some would call it a pit in the desert. It is a very tough track, and we're looking forward to a big race. Last week in the opener at Daytona, we saw a fantastic run. Pro Puppy, Daytona's winner, has withdrew his entry from the series, so it's still very wide open, obviously, after one round. I'm joined here tonight by One Shoe. Say hi to the fans, One Shoe.
Hey, Carlin. Good to share the booth with you this evening. Hello to all our motorsports fans out there watching on YouTube, to Flux Motorsport TV.
Yeah, it looks like to be a good one, as we've said in the past. It's definitely the GTE cars are a good choice to run as the American Tour Sports Car Championship because, I mean, you've got a handful of Ferraris and Astons that are very competitive out there, but I think the GTE is much like the GTO was back in the old IMSA Camel GT days. The series is a lot about the Ford GT versus the Corvette, and those two cars are the two main competitors. We do have a couple of Ferraris in the field, and I didn't see any Astons on the list, but I do know there are a few Ferraris out there. But Ford versus Chevy is really the central battle here. When you've run these cars, One Shoe, which make are you usually in a GTE car?
I'm kind of a diehard Chevrolet guy. I think I got to check my right shoulder here. I don't know if my Chevy bow tie tattoo is still there, but I think for me, traditional, something with a big V8, a lot of horsepower, rear-wheel drive. But I know certainly the European cars that have come over here, and the Ford GT is just an amazing car all the way around as they continue to develop it. And I think we're going to see some of that tonight, especially with knowing that Muttley's in a Ford. It might be interesting. I know Pogo, I believe Pogo is actually in the Corvette, so it'd be interesting to see those two veterans kind of tear it up here.
Oh, absolutely. We do, as we were just looking at, Deadly Hawk is one of the few that's in a Porsche. I really like the Porsche for this series. I believe that, I don't know that Willow is the best track for it. I believe the Porsche might be the hands-on favorite when we get to like Indy Road Course or Laguna Seca. The bigger tracks, I think, might favor Corvette and the Aston Martin a little bit. At least that's what we've seen in the past. But we'll see, because I know I've been practicing for Sunday stock car race, and I have found that the less power you get down on the road in certain places, the better off you are. So maybe that Porsche is going to, maybe not the back section it's going to be all that great, but it's going to be good coming up through the S's, or coming out of the carousel and up through turns 4, 5, and 6. So you might see something really good there with that one. It's tough to tell what you'll see come race day, because it all depends on who's sitting there behind the wheel and how they have the car set up and how they use it. But we're seeing the laps getting down in the 112s right now. Just to go to show you, not just how balanced the talent is in Flux Motorsport, but how balanced the cars are in this series. These guys are, right now, we've got just over a second between the top 9. And there's a lot of these guys that haven't even got a time down. I think one thing we can do here, and we'll get eyes on them. I'm doing a little feature I like to do. I'm going to start doing regularly during qualifying, is to give the track walk with somebody in the cockpit, and I'm usually going to go with the previous week's winner. We do not, as we got somebody around, a Ford GT around there. We've got a previous week's winner is not here, so we'll go with the runner-up from last week, and that was OGR Cat Guy. So we'll get a cockpit view of Cat Guy in his Corvette. He is in the number 3, the factory vet. And we'll go the rest of this lap and then take a lap around as he's just warming up the tire. Whoops,
He knew we were going to highlight
Curse
him.
of the commentator, yep. Curse of the commentator, absolutely. As you can see, the inside of the Corvette C7R. This is the car that, at least over here in the States, where they ran in the American Le Mans series, Johnny O'Connell, Jan Magnussen. This is the same car that Dale Earnhardt ran his only one and only Daytona 24 in, as well as with his son.
Yep, Junior ran this car too. Yep.
Yeah, it's one of those. I almost say that it's like the American version of the Porsche 911. It's been updated over the years, but it's basically the same car that it has been for many, many years. You know, Ford has come out with different models, Ferrari's come out with different models, but Corvette and Porsche pretty much stick with the design. And as we'll take a look here, this is coming off down the front stretch. You got to get good speed off of turn 9, and he's going to come up through the gears. He's trying to get some heat in the tires. Now turn 1 here, you can take this turn very aggressively, but you want to be down. You want to make sure you've got the power down coming out through there. Now the carousel here is 3rd gear for a lot of guys. I think in the GTE it might be 4th or 5th gear, and he is taking it in 5th. You don't want to get too far to the inside because that'll turn you around. You can easily get too loose right there. Now right here coming through turn 5, or turn 4, I'm sorry. Once again, it gets light over the bumps. Same thing through turn 6. This is the area we call right turn ridge. This is a very conservative lap. He's still getting up to speed here. Now here's the tough part. Back to the left, you got to avoid spinning it here. Now here's what we call wheel hop ridge. Now you hear right there. I'm willing to bet Cat's got his traction control on, because you heard it kind of burp without hearing the throttle go down. That's a smart move in these GTE cars, since you do have the traction control, because that section right there is dangerous. Now here comes turn 9. You've got to be fast, but you don't want to have so much momentum that you're going to rip past that line, which is not only dangerous for hitting the wall, but is dangerous because you could easily get a penalty. And that's 1 lap around the 2.5 miles of Willow. You're never really that slow. The slowest section of the track is the 60 plus miles per hour coming through turn 5 and right turn ridge near the Mario tunnel, as we used to call it. Or it looks like a Mario tunnel up there in the hammer of the gun if you're looking at a track map. And that's a tough section. That's the slowest section of the track. And the rest of the track, the entire thing, is well in excess of that. Now you've run here you've run here in stock cars, you've run here in Indy cars, you've run here in sports cars, which is, you know, the American region of Flux runs all of those here. Your impressions for years of running this place?
Right before we got into the practice, you were talking a little bit about one of the sad parts about this racetrack is the fact that this could be such a hallmark racetrack. It's an amazing location. It's kind of out in the middle of nowhere, and this could be, they could do so much more with this facility. It's like most racetracks, unfortunately, there's nothing wrong with it that a whole bunch of money wouldn't cure. But as far as the surface itself, I think out of all the tracks that I've run at, this is the one track, and you know, I was never a fan of Watkins Glen until I had enough help to figure out the right way to do it. But this track, I think that, in my opinion, there's 100 different places where things can go horribly wrong here. And the big carousel, the last corner is just so enticing
right there
to do exactly that. Exactly. Yeah. It's like you're carrying so much speed, you think you got the car set, and you miss the turn in. And you don't give it enough of a courtesy lift so you can actually get around that corner, and you're out in the dirt. And if you're not really paying attention, then you wind up over in the barriers that are far off to the side that you can see in the background there. And so you get this track. It's the eternal thing of, man, if I can make this one turn a little bit better, then I can do that, but don't make that one turn bad again.
Yeah, it's so easy to mess up. And like I would compare it, one thing I've always said about Willow, and this is going back, like we said, several years, even before the Flux days, we're doing 3-4 seasons a year. So I've got 20 seasons of this level of competition under my belt, and a lot of them at this track. And to this day, all those races I ran, the greatest road racing finish I've ever been a part of was right here. It was in the Indy cars, and it was myself and 2 other drivers that were nose to tail, and we finished less than a second apart, 1, 2, 3, yeah, after a 200-mile race here. And it's because it does bear a resemblance to the short course at Watkins Glen for that reason. It's fast. You've got to avoid, you can push it and get better times, but you got to avoid making the mistakes. And what you were saying about this place and spending money, exactly. This is 50 miles east of Los Angeles or so. It's in as good a location as the Auto Club Speedway in Fontana is. It's about the same distance. They could throw if they threw some amenities here. The way I compare it to is I spent a little less than a year as a kid where I actually, as Lecky goes around there,
the inside.
To the inside,
wow.
yeah. That's because he took it the apex too far to the inside, and it pulls the back end around. But like I was saying, I lived in Sebring, Florida for about a year when I was 9-10 years old. And that whole town, the biggest thing there ever, I mean, it's literally a speck on the earth in the absolute armpit of Florida, unless it wasn't for that racetrack. And the place was almost closed until Don Panos came along in the late 90s and said, I'm going to put $10 million into this place. And he built the hotels, and he lobbied and got more roads built going into the place. And now Sebring is right back to where it should be, which is, one of the best, most recognizable tracks in the world, not just in the United States. And Willow could definitely be that. But back on the Knights race, we see Harry, who had a quick car and not the finish that he wanted last week. Let me pull up the finishes. Yeah, Harry was back in 14th last week after he got in a wreck. He has banged up that. I believe he's one of them in the Ferrari, isn't he? Yeah,
yes.
That Ferrari? Yeah, he is one of the Ferrari drivers. So, I expect to see him run pretty well. He's sitting on the provisional pole right now, just ahead of McToasty. Surprised to see Cat, I'd say this far back, but 0.6 of a second. It's not that far back. It's just these cars and this class of drivers. I'm not the least bit surprised the top 10 are all within 0.8 of a second right now.
I guess we should stop talking about Cat Guy, because every time
let's get the camera off of Cat, because he's obviously yeah.
Poor Cat Guy.
Go to the 28 Super Crusher. Super Crusher he only wound up with a 13th place finish, but he showed some pace last week at Daytona. So I would not be surprised to see him moving up this week. It's still way too early in the championship to be sweating a bad finish at Daytona. I can tell you straight up, my stock car championship a few years ago came with a DNF at Daytona. So you can easily recover from it, but it does take away your margin for error. I'd say it's like Benny Parsons used to say about the chase. You have one mulligan maybe. Yeah. And then after that, if you want, you want a title, you're going to have to be on. You can have a couple bad races and still finish in the top 5, but it's not going to happen for you. You're not getting the trophy and the swag from Flux Motorsport at the end of the season if you have a couple of bad races. So,
hey, speaking of swag, did I see an announcement that went out today that the Flux Motorsport store is now open?
Absolutely. That is something for all the viewers to check out. You go to the FluxMotorsport.com, hit the website, and you will be able to purchase all the Flux swag that you want. I know there's t-shirts. I believe they're working on hats. I'm not sure if those are available yet. I don't have I'm using my phone for the notes right now, so I don't have it in front of me. But
Yeah,
yeah,
t-shirts, hoodies, phone cases, just to name a few of
absolutely. And
those items that are available.
our members and fans, and like we said, Flux Motorsport is a CIC nonprofit. That means every one of your purchases goes right back into the league. That's how we provide these broadcasts, how we provide full officiating of the community, and basically making it what it is, which is it's the best racing community you'll find on console. And I've been around a few of them, and
Amen.
that's what that money goes to. So we hope you'll check out the Flux store, get you some swag, and when you do, post the photos into the Flux Discord. I know that when I get the T-shirt, I'm putting it on my two little ones and then posting their picture with it. They're going to be the ones modeling, not me, because they're way better looking than I am. So I'm going with the little missus to the 6 month old can wear her Flux hat and shirt, all that jazz. But we
Looks
haven't
like we're
seen
getting
much
to the
movement.
end of qualifying here.
Yeah, getting down to the last 30 seconds, and haven't seen Kat, Ty, Joe O'Brien. I've expected to move up, but they're right on top of each other. Harry, as of right now, is looking to win his first Flux Motorsport GTE pole here in 2021 Season 1, as he's still out front. McToasty's not making a challenge. Lecky's still out there, and he's pulling out of the way. I think he's conceding third. Going to go ahead and take that. Got a couple of
Yeah, and
guys adjusting their
I
times.
was
Go
kind of
ahead.
wondering if Harry was going to make it, if he was going to get into the 11s. He got within in 200s.
And honestly, I think that's the best we're going to see, because they're going to come out there on full tanks with tires that they have set up so that they can go the distance or go close to the distance. So I don't think we're going to see a race pace in the 111s, 112s. Saw that the other night in stock car practice too. Guys were hitting a certain lap time, and other guys were freaking out. And I was thinking to myself, he's not going to do that for more than 2 or 3 laps in the race. So uh, you're going to have to keep your eyes open to see who can, really it's going to be about distance and who can handle the tire wear, keeping the car
Yeah.
underneath them. I think that that's going to be a key factor in who comes out with this.
And I think that's been probably one of the more interesting pieces now that we're seeing under the Flux Motorsport banner is this additional level of realism that we're seeing, and how we handle this accelerated tire wear.
Absolutely. All right, going to give you your starting order here for the Flux Motorsport GTE Championship race at Willow Springs. Our starting lineup, starting on the pole in is that a Ferrari? I believe Harry in a Ferrari.
Yes, sir.
Uh, Harry takes the pole with a Ferrari with a 112.012. Starting second outside the front row will be McToasty in the vet. Starting third inside of row 2 will be Lucky 2000. Pogo Mojo starting fourth, also in a Corvette, and our first Ford, Taijo, will start on the inside of row 3. Starting on the outside of row 3 will be the veteran O'Brien, winner in the stock car race at Daytona last week. He's also in a vet. Inside of row 4, starting 7th, will be OGR Cat Guy in the vet. Outside of row 4, Jiggly Jello. Starting in the inside of row 5 in the 9th spot, Super Crusher. He's also in a vet, and I believe Luke Snipes there is is that a Ferrari? Luke Snipes will be starting outside of row 5 in 10th.
Yes, it
Inside,
is.
yep, inside of row 6, Deadly Hawk will be I believe, the lone Porsche in the field. We'll keep an eye out and see how he does. And on the outside of row 6, CDN Trooper qualifying 12th, our friend from up north in Canada with the Corvette. Inside of row 7, My Name Jeff in a vet. And on the outside of row 7, the veteran in the Ford GT, Muttley. Inside of row 8, Green Gaiman, who's in a Ford GT, and rounding out the field in the second Porsche. So we do have 2 Porsches. As Deadly Hawk's corporate teammate is Rydog 680. So there's your starting lineup here for GTE at Willow Springs, and it is time to get cracking. We'll give them their 2 minutes to set up. We'll just stay on the trackside cam up front here for the meantime for the start of the race.
So this is really exciting because I know getting down, especially into this first corner, sometimes your nerves can get the best of you, especially if you're on the outside. And it's going to be interesting to see. So we're going to have the Ferrari and the Corvette drag racing down to the first corner. And I don't know. Should we? I would say if I had to pick between one of the two, I don't know, Carlin. What do you think? Ferrari or Corvette?
Honestly, this track I could see going either way. I like the Vet because of the speed here, just like I liked the Vet at Daytona. But they've got to keep the tires on it coming up through the carrot 2, 3, and 4 and 5. You know, that whole section. If they can't keep the tires on it, then I think that the Porsche and the Ford might be a little better on tire wear because they've got better mechanical downforce than a Corvette. But that being said, it has a lot to do with the driver behind the wheel. And you and I both know, you took the words out of my mouth once. You coming down to turn one here, you want to get to the outside to get the best line, but you got to be real careful of somebody pushing you out in the sand. I've had that happen to me on the starter races here more times than I can count. That somebody, may not have even been their fault, but somebody came up inside of them and pushed them to the outside, and they had nowhere to go. So it can be very difficult to navigate turn one. Flux drivers are normally very patient about that. They don't want to bang up their cars. This is not a free for all, but nonetheless, the momentum and the G forces you take here into turn one and into the carousel, I will be shocked if we don't get at least one car off in one and one car off in the carousel. But here we go.
Right.
Harry's bringing us down along with McToasty. They are rolling out to the start here at Willow Springs International Raceway. And we are green as they fire down towards turn one. Harry and McToasty side by side. Harry's got the inside line here, so might have the advantage. And it appears he does as these guys come cruising through one. We got a couple of cars off. There's a Porsche back there. I believe that's Deadly Hawk, but he appears not to. Somebody's way off back there. That was Super Crusher, who has gone way off on the side. So we've had some contact early on. Ty Joe as well. He's fallen back. But the front group of the field appears to have pulled out cleanly. Ty Joe, Rye Dog, and Deadly Hawk definitely had some trouble early. There goes that cone. As they line up coming through the first lap, coming over here back through turn 5, 6 over here on Wheelhop Ridge. I'd much rather be in a GTE coming over that ridge than a stock car, I can tell you that. But Harry's pulled out a little bit of a gap here on McToasty and Lecky here on the opening lap.
Yeah, I'm already having nightmares thinking about taking that Ford Fusion over that hill here on Sunday.
Harry goes wide, way wide. Oh, does he keep it off the wall? And that was a dangerous rejoin.
Yes, right.
He tried to keep it back off that wall, and he did. Let's go ahead and get on board with Cat Guy. He's probably, or at least on the camera on Cat Guy, he's probably right there in the middle of all this as he's trailing O'Brien. Those two guys more than familiar with each other, former teammates even, I believe. But that puts Lecky out front.
Good to see O'Brien back in the fold, if you will. Raced with him for many seasons, and look forward to being able to team up with him again also.
Oh yeah, he's an excellent driver in whatever class of car. One of those guys who I like to say there's not a particular car that he's going to blow your doors off with an alien lap time, but I know aliens that can't drive as well in 3-4 different types of cars as O'Brien can. He's excellent in whatever you put him in. And GTEs is one of his specialties, so I do expect him. He did pick up a ride this week after not starting Daytona, so I do expect to see him contend in this series for at least a good points finish. But meanwhile, back up front, Lecky appears to have pulled himself out. He's got a good second and a half now over McToasty as it looks like Harry settled back into about 7th place, so he didn't take as much of a hit as he could have there. But Pogo, let's look at McToasty and Pogo. They are right on top of each other for this is a good chance to get inside that vet with Pogo if you want one shoe. I believe he's coming right up on McToasty and trying to set him up. You can see in his rear view where they're coming up behind him, he's got O'Brien and Cat Guy right there in the onboard screen. Pogo comes over turn 6 right there. Wheel hop ridge is 7. He also appears to have the traction control on that's saving him through that bump. But Lecky has pulled out. He's running, should be running faster laps at this point because everybody else is still kind of stuck in the dirty air. And like I told the drivers before the race, I told them basically in so many words, you got to think almost speedway style, because this is a track where you will get aerodynamic push and aerodynamic loose. You know, with cars, you are going fast enough here, 160 miles an hour at the end of the front straight, to where you're going to get aero push when you come into that corner like he just did behind Cat Guy. Right.
Yeah, and it looks like, you know, I was kind of thinking maybe Toasty had a little taken off of his wing with Cat Guy being that close to cause him to run wide like that too.
Yeah, you can see him getting a little bit loose when Pogo gets close, and that's definitely. Oh, we got a Porsche going a lap down. That's Rye Dog, I believe. He pulled up on the outside there. Good job, Once. That's exactly how to do it. I'm not going to stay on the camera for more than about a lap when we're in the car.
Yeah, but there he is.
Yeah, Rye Dog.
He's actually stuck on the hill, it looks like.
Not sure if he's stuck. They're trying to tell him that he can get through, but I wonder if he has damage. Is he going to pull out here? He's got a little bit of nose damage. Definitely knocked it a little askew when he's making his way out, but tough break for him. Rye Dog's a good driver, and definitely just got bit out here by this track. As it looks like O'Brien has had some trouble. He's fallen all the way back to 13th. He must have got around somewhere. He's all the way back to 13th and is now chasing Jiggly Jello. So O'Brien must have had a problem. As you can see, that whole line of cars still looking to separate here on lap 5. These cars will pull out at a minute 12. You're going to get roughly 5 laps every 6 minutes. So that's going to be 30. We're going to get somewhere in the neighborhood of 40 laps, 38, 40 laps. Probably in this race, maybe as many as 40. Rye Dog hitting the pit so that he can repair damage, I'm sure, but O'Brien already coming through, making his way back up. He definitely, doesn't look like he has any damage on that car. I think he just has spin.
It's noticeable, yeah.
But it looks like we got back at third. We got a fight, Cat Guy and McToasty battling for third place. There's McToasty leading Cat Guy, leading Luke Snipes, and then leading Harry. Those Canadian troopers not far back either. Those guys are all right on top of each other, just looking for a spot in line to
there
pull
you go.
out.
We got the Ferraris. Got the Ferraris chasing the Chevrolets.
Yeah, pretty much. We got the vets have pulled out. Pogo used to run a Ford GT back in the day. I believe that he switched to the vet now. I always liked the vet because I found that the car was more consistent. I could easily out-tune myself when I tested the Ford. With the vet, it was a little easier, I think, to strike a balance, even if you were messing with downforce and messing with springs. The Ford was easy to dial out as much as it was to dial in. But that being said, I don't know if that's part of why Pogo switched cars, but either way, he's running where he always runs. Right up front.
It doesn't seem to matter if it's slick, snow, dry, good. You can usually find Pogo towards the front.
Oh yeah, it's he was of course the winner of our winter special event, the One Night in Hell over in Norway in the Rallycross, and Pogo's not a loud guy or anything, but he told me before that race, he said, I'm not going to say anything to anybody. He's like, but he's like, I'm looking at this, and it's like, I think I'm going to win this thing. That's before any of the heats, and there's 32 cars, and he said, I think I got the car to do it. And as soon as he got out there and started racing, he went, yep, he's right. He's got a great car.
Yeah. you said about you betting man, bet on him. Of course, you know, he is from Vegas, so it would make sense that he would be in a kind of a betting mood. I wonder what the odds would have been on him.
That's a good question. Let's take a look at Muttley and Super. They appear to have a battle going on there for 8th place, right in the middle of the pack. Muttley started around there and has moved up slightly. Super Crusher, they're both right about where they were. That's a Vet versus a Ford, as Muttley's in the yellow Ford GT in the foreground, and he's got Super Crusher all over him. Super Crusher appears to be quicker at this point, but they ran an identical lap the last time, so
wow.
Both 1:14.80s. You can see, well, like I said, those laps are starting to drop almost right away as those tires come in. You got to remember too, and that's one of the reasons why we run on Project Cars 2, and why I will say it to the rafters. I think Project Cars 2 wins the PS4 Sim Racer contest, and one of the biggest reasons is the Live Track 2.0. The live track on this game is fantastic, and this is a track you'll see it. Their rubber will build up in turns 1 and turns 9 especially, as Super Crusher goes around coming through the carousel.
Yeah, it looked like there was and I'm not sure who that was in a Ferrari that was down on the inside. I don't know if he just
took his arrow.
Kind of surprised him or what happened, but yeah, the car just went around.
Well, it took his air off. I mean, if you take those turns, we'll see it especially when the race on Sunday. If you try to take that carousel too far to the inside, it'll get your back end loose. And if you have the car set up real loose, then that's what's going to happen to you. You're going to go sideways there. That might have been it, but it might have also had a little help with the air. As Luke Snipes, another one of the Ferrari drivers, he's moved up into 8th. Chasing down trying to catch up to CDN Trooper, as we've seen a little gap separate between the top 4 and 5 and 6. Jiggly Jello back there in 9th, he's coming up on Luke as well. While we get a chance, we'll wait till he comes back around, but it'd be a good time to get a lap around. We'll wait till he comes around for a full lap, but let's get an we gave an in-car of the Corvette during the qualifying. We'll get an in-car of the Ford, and I think the guy who earns it would be the highest running Ford, which I believe is it Jello? I think he might be it's Muttley.
It's Muttley. Yes.
Muttley, we'll give him the onboard when he comes around. Inside the GT, you can see the difference inside the cockpit, maybe pick up a little something on the handling. Muttley, as you can see right there, he's given up a little over Wheel Hop Ridge, turn 6, and I'll tell you why. Because he doesn't want to get bit out by it. Period. This is a guy who's been here before. He knows that as those tires go, it's just going to get light. Especially, this is one of those situations where the light fuel load actually hurts you. All right, we'll go ahead and get on him here as he's coming down the front stretch in that Ford GT. And he's got Luke right on him. But I think that burning your fuel load at a place like this, especially at a spot like Wheel Hop Ridge, it actually hurts you having the lighter fuel load. The heavier fuel load helps stick the tail of the car down when you hit that bump. And so as this race goes on and those tires wear and the car gets lighter, I expect to see somebody go around I really expect to see somebody go around on turn 6. He's coming up on, ooh, and that looks like Ride Dog again. He is just having, he is having all kinds of troubles there. But as you see, Muttley's being very cautious here. You look at the speed. He's got it on miles per hour, so it's easy to read. He's into the 60s over that ridge. Watch the throttle here. That time he stayed on it, but he's definitely taking it easy through the bumps. I think Muttley is looking at that top 5 he got last week at Long Beach in the Indy cars and is going, if I don't damage this thing, I'm going to end up on the podium. So he's just riding along, and I doubt he's going to fight real hard if Luke even comes for the pass. Luke right there, as you see Luke going around behind him, and that was dirty air. That was exactly what I was talking about. I can see it in the rear view. He was too far on the inside, and he's turning the car hard. Exactly. Took it off the nose, and the car kept turning. And without that downforce on the nose, it went around on him on the inside line there. That's where you'll see that dirty air more so than you will at some, you know, we're not going to see much dirty air problem at, say, Laguna Seca, like you will at Road America, Daytona, Willow Springs. The American tracks tend to be like that. There's a lot more wide open courses over here stateside than there are, you know, in Europe. Of course, I'm not talking about spots. This is a generalization, but these tracks tend to have that aerodynamic thing, like you would at what I think of when you're coming up through that section. It's not the same kind of turn, but Eau Rouge at Spa. How many times have you come up Eau Rouge at Spa and that you come up on a car behind them and all of a sudden that thing doesn't want to turn? And I think that's what, in that case, it turned too much because he was on the inside. But meanwhile, Cat Guy has pulled out a bit of a gap on McToasty back up into second as they're chasing down Lecky with just short of 14 minutes gone in the 45-minute race here at Willow Springs. These guys are kind of settling in. Most guys, I suspect, with the fuel load, have the ability to go the distance on fuel. The question is going the distance on tires. A pit stop takes, you know, a good amount of time, 45 seconds to a minute, depending on what you're getting done. And are there enough laps to where making a stop and throwing on some new rubber that you'd be able to make it up? I don't know. You'd have to be really fast to pull that off, especially since Flux drivers are used to taking care of their rubber.
I thought it was funny right before we made the transition. One of the drivers kind of threw it out there in the open chat, asking if anybody was planning on taking tires at mid-race, and it was so crazy because it was dead silent. Nobody was even willing to snicker. Nobody was willing to give anything away.
Nope.
It's like, well, if I tell you I'm going to do that, then what are you going to do with that information?
Exactly. There you go. It's like I told the guys. Well, everybody in the league, you can think of it like having a corporate reps for the manufacturers. And the corporate reps they'll make sure you got a setup to compete with. But what they're actually going to do with it on race day, everybody's tight-lipped. I know that we were working on the stock cars the other day. We've been sharing the setups back and forth, trying to get something that's really drivable. But the strategy I'm working on, no. I got something totally out of the box for everybody. Yep. So that's just, you know, that's one of those things that the guys are going to keep close to their chest. But meanwhile, Lucky 113.5 last time. Let's see what he does here on lucky number flat 13. And if he's picking up or if Cat Guy's gaining on him. He goes 112.5, so he picks it back up. Cat Guy goes 113.5, so Lucky made a second back up on that lap. But those two, I think, are just going back and forth. Cat Guy was in the 12s last time. Lucky was in the 13s. They're maintaining a gap of right about 3 seconds. So at this point, I don't think Cat Guy's quite pushing super hard yet to catch him, and I doubt Lucky's pushing super hard to get away from him.
Yeah, there's nothing to win right now with so much time being left, and as you mentioned, they're certainly for making that decision about conserving tires. Then there's no reason at this point to try to, and you know, you can tell how smooth they are too. You're not seeing all those changes. Of course, when you're that far out front, you don't have to contend with dirty air or traffic, so it would hopefully lend itself to you being very smooth.
Oh yeah, I believe Jack Davies, I think that's Jack Demenzies, one of our veteran drivers. I believe he just pointed out, he's like, I think they can go one set, but it's going to be tricky at the end. He was testing with the guys earlier, and he's 100% right. Now, this is one of those situations, too. I'll give you an anecdote. I can't tell you how many times with the less experienced drivers I've been in a race, I've been in the position Lecky's in, or any one of these guys that have a little bit of a lead. And you got 3 seconds, and there's no reason to push because you need something on. You don't need to overheat your tires in case that guy, for when you have to race that guy. So I can't tell you how many races, and one shoe, you've been one of them in the stock cars at Indianapolis with me before, where I've been a second or two ahead, and the guy starts catching me. And then as soon as he catches me, can't pass me, and I pull back out. It's because you're waiting because you want to have, I know he's pushing as hard as he can to get to me, so I'll just let him get to me. And once he gets within about half a second, then I'll get back on it and heat my tires up for 4 or 5 laps and pull the lead back out a little bit. So I would not be surprised if that's what Lecky's trying to do right now. He's just trying to stay, you know, to build. He's actually stretched it a little bit, but I think that could be as much right now because Cat's dealing with lap traffic. But the fact is that that's one of the big things. There's no, you know you're going to need tires to race the guy if he gets to you. So, you know, there's no point in, you know, I used to look at it at this place specifically. I used to look at it like this. If I was in Lecky's position and I'm 3.5 seconds up, I'm thinking, okay, I think I can pull this out, and maybe over the next 10 laps I can stretch it to 6 seconds, 7 seconds. But that's still well within what you will give up with one spin.
Oh yeah.
So why push it? And as we got Jiggly Jello now hitting the pits here at the 25-minute mark, I'm not sure if Jiggly and Luke, so I'm not sure if that's damage. They look like they're changing tires. Now the graphics won't always show the tire change, but I think if the guys go down like that and they don't take off as soon as the sign is lifted, that usually means they're changing tires. You see the blur on them? That's usually means it's a tire change. I think those guys they had an aggressive setup in those tires. They might be fixing the car too. I'm not taking that away, but it could definitely be tire changes there. And if you're changing tires at 25 minutes left, they might be back in again. And Pogo's in.
Wow,
Pogo,
that's amazing too to think about. If you couldn't get half, you know, for whatever reason, whether it's track temperature or the fact that the red mist was getting in your eyes and you were trying to stay up front, yeah, that would be scary to think you have to go back and do 2 pit stops.
Yeah, that had to be I didn't see any damage on Pogo's car, and he did not, unless he made a fueling error before the race and realized he needed fuel. That had to be a tire change. Let's see how far, 37, 40 seconds back. That looks like a tire change to me, but I could be wrong. We'll have to have Pogo weigh in on it after the race, but that looks like a tire change. So I'm thinking guys who, I don't know, we might see everybody have to pit, or at least a good number of them, and that's why you keep racing. We got somebody out of the race, and I'm gonna guess that that's Rye Dog, who is having just so many problems with the car. He is retired from the race. We're down to 15. Meanwhile, let's find a close battle for position. It looks like Ty Joe and My Name Jeff look like they're going at it. My Name Jeff just in front of Ty Joe. It's Chevy versus Ford. Jeff is in 9th place. Let me get on to my yeah, Jeff's another new ride this week, so he's looking to pick up maximum points.
And could be wrong, is Ty Joe's his right rear taillight knocked out?
Let's take a look at that. Try to get
it kind of looked like when I saw him going.
Oh yeah,
his right rear tail. So that must have been. I wonder if he was involved in some of the first lap shenanigans. For being back a little bit in the field.
To be honest, he got away easy. That's not a spot that's going to cause you that much aerodynamic trouble. I mean, I imagine you can feel it a little bit I don't see a bend or anything in the bodywork, but he probably feels a little something back there, as he's definitely under pressure from Pogo, who's got fresh tires now. So Pogo's should be able to get by him here relatively shortly, although Pogo's dealing with the dirty air. Meanwhile, McToasty and Jeff both hitting the pits. So when we got leaders hitting the pits that we did not see a wreck, I think we definitely have tire changes taking place. That has to be what they're doing. I wish we had a pit side reporter. We could get that rub on that.
Well, maybe next season, Carlin.
Well, you never know what we're going to get with our new software when we go over to PS5. That would be awesome to have something like that where we can radio in and see what's up. But yeah, I'm going to guess just based on experience that these are tire changes. As meanwhile, Lecky's 12 seconds out in front now. Cat Guy must have had something go on with him as well, because Lecky's just pulled out a massive lead. I'm sure the viewers watching saw the times change when we were watching the pit stops, but that's what it appears like to me. If there is a guy who can make the tires last, though, Cat Guy's it.
And as we've kind of given him a nickname, Muttley and I gave him a nickname last week. We're going to call him the One-Arm Bandit for a while.
Oh yeah,
because he's still driving injured.
He has a torn bicep muscle, viewers. He tore his bicep muscle, what, 2 weeks ago?
Yes.
And yet still came out and last week ran second in the GTEs at Daytona, won the Indy cars at Long Beach, and finished second in the stock cars at Daytona. So that was with one arm.
Incredible.
I thought I was a badass when I scored 34 points in a high school basketball game with the flu. But, a torn bicep and riding around this place. And he's basically, from what I understand, he's got the one good arm and he's got the other arm on the wheel. And he's kind of guiding it. He said he can kind of guide the turn, but that all the strength comes from the one arm, which means that any type of hairpin or any type of sharp turn, he's bound to lose precision. But he's still running 123.08 on that last lap. I'm going to say that that was definitely a spin. He lost 10 seconds there, so he must have looped it. We used to tell guys here at Willow Springs back in the old days that the problem with Willow, more so in the Gran Turismo version than in this one, but still a thing. You can burp the throttle or try to save yourself when you push it too hard and lose a second or two, which is preferable because this is a place where you don't lose 4 or 5 seconds with a mistake here. You lose 10 or 15. And now Cat Guy's back up. So we got problems with the timing, or is Lecky now spun the car? That's what I'm wondering. Sometimes these timing and scoring go crazy on us.
Right, and I'm kind of wondering maybe if that wasn't Cat Guy's outlap.
Yeah, I didn't see him hit the pits though, and Lecky definitely hasn't hit the pits, and he would have been 40 seconds ahead. So that's a good question. I think when Lecky crosses the line again, we're going to see that he probably had a rough lap too. But Muttley all the way up to 5th now as he's chasing Super Crusher again, and they've got Harry, the pole sitter, who has recovered back up to 6th, not far behind them, as O'Brien and Green Gaiman are in the pits. So I think these guys are definitely making tire changes. We haven't. The one good thing about Willow is that unless there's another car around you, or unless you really, really mess up, you're not going to damage the car when you go off track. You can slow down, catch it back up. And now Harry's got his hands full with McToasty, who made a pit stop. Chevy versus Ferrari, but that's really an unfair battle right now because I believe McToasty is on a fresh set of rubber. But there's still points on the table here. And I'll say this: we don't know where all that's going. The league is currently reviewing all that stuff, but I personally would want every finishing points position I could get this season, whether it's for the championship or whether it's for 10th, because you don't know, with the incredible explosion in membership and population we've had, what it's going to take to get you into the championship next season, not just sign-ups. And I just would want every bit of argument I could make. You know what I mean? I was 6th in the championship last season. Not to mention, just as we always say, a racer, as Harry goes around, makes a nice save coming through turn 5 there. Good job. Gets back on it. He's got Pogo back on him. But I know that a racer, a true racer, races for whatever they're racing for. If you're racing for the win, great. If you're racing for 11th, you want 11th. I used to always, my first team in sim racing was Team Dana Moore Racing. And Team Dana Moore had said that to me on more than one occasion. If the best you can do is 10th, get 10th. If you're running 10th, try to get 9th. If you're running 5th, try to get 4th. Wherever you're at, look forward and aim, and that's what these guys got to do, because we still got 17 minutes, so there's at least 15 laps to go. And
yeah, I don't know any of these guys that are showing up to the racetrack going, well, I'm going to do a solid third today. Every one of them wants to be up front and stay there.
Exactly. So once the race unfolds, you take what's in front of you, and hope to God you get a good finish. And there's O'Brien. He definitely had a tire change as long as he's been in the pits. Possibly even some damage of this. He's 3 minutes, 2 laps down. I think O'Brien definitely took some damage to be in there that long. He must have racked the car up pretty good. But yeah, it looks like Harry, Pogo, Taijo, those are the closest battles on the track. They're battling for 8th right now. Harry does have a penalty on the time, and we'll worry about that once the guys have crossed the line. Somebody went way off back there. Somebody floating around. These guys are definitely at, what did we call it? That section right there, turns 5, 6. That's going to turns 4, 5, and 6. That's going to be the trouble spot once the tires start wearing and the fuel load comes off. And we've seen 2 or 3 guys now in the last 2 laps have trouble in that section, and that is with no. Harry is loose as a goose. And he catches.
Oh my goodness.
He catches the Ford GT there of Taijo, who still makes it through. But he's definitely got a loose race car. I don't know if it's the set. I mean, I definitely think he came out with a loose setup, but I don't know if he's got something banged up on the back that's causing the lose a little more.
Some suspension damage that we can't necessarily see, or.
Yeah, he's definitely loose though. That's a tough corner. With a GTE car, you should be able to set it up to stay snug enough through there. I think he's either got some damage or a real loose setup. But meanwhile, Muttley's still trying to chase Super Crusher, who's moved up to 4th with all that. I'm going to take a guess and say all these guys from the midway up have not pitted yet. I think the farthest one back that I can be sure has pitted is Pogo. And Taijo Mortalis is correct in our chat. Taijo made a terrific save there. Harry was trying to catch that car. He went wide, caught it in the sand, and made it back on the track. That was a save that One Shoe can attest to me you would not have made in the Gran Turismo version of Willow Springs. The second you hit the dirt in the GT6 version of Willow Springs, you were gone.
Yep.
But that was one you were able to make. Oh.
Upside down in there, Muttley.
You see how
I don't know if the car wheel hopped coming up just as making that transition on the left-hander, but it just kind of got out from under him.
That's the spot. If we could stick a camera on a spot of the track right now, that's where I'd put it, because that's where everybody's getting down there. You're braking hard, tires are worn, you've got a lighter fuel load now, and this thing is it's doing that to these guys. They're having a tough time with it, and you think you're seeing that now. Wait till Sunday. The stock cars are here. Everybody's going to have. That's the one spot on the track that I'm a complete coward at right now, coming through there, because I know that there's not much to be gained. Harry back in the pits from 12th, so he's having his problems here. But meanwhile, let's give the airtime back up front. Lecky, meanwhile, still holding 4.5 seconds up on Cat Guy and still turning the fastest laps on the track. 1:13.1 that last time. So he is definitely on the mark. I don't believe Lecky was 5th last week at Daytona, so a win here would put him in a very good position. I think that's right. Got a comment again from Jack. I think that is 100% correct. I think Lecky has the setup for the tires, because you're not seeing that big drop off. Him and Cat Guy are not having a big drop off right now on their lap times. And as a matter of fact, they just ran mid-14s. Pogo ran a 1:14.1. Granted, that's in traffic, but he has fresh set of rubber on light fuel. So these guys definitely have the car set up to do the distance. And it brings me back to what I always say, One Shoe, and I'm sure your follow-up comment will be on it. you'll hear me say this to guys a million times during the test sessions during the week. Everybody's out here in practice. Everybody's trying. They're coming in, testing the car, running 3 or 4 laps, trying to get to the top of the speed chart because everybody wants their name floating around there on the speed chart. Oh man, you know who was at the top of the speed chart this week? But the thing is, you have to do long run testing.
Yeah.
And people accuse me of sandbagging in practices because I don't put up my fast laps, but I don't. I don't believe in running qualifying laps in practice. You know, I don't believe in, I get the car set up to the speed that I want it to run, and then I start running long runs and seeing where the car goes. And I think that Lecky, Cat Guy, and CDN for sure, those are the 3 guys. They have not been in the pits. They're still running in the 13s and 14s. They have the setup right.
Muttley and I had a conversation last weekend about racecraft, and you know, it's the whole thing. It's so much more about being able to make the entire run. Yeah, it's as you mentioned, throw one gigantic number up there for one lap, but you can't do that for 50, 60, 70 laps because the car is going to change so much. You know, fuel load
and the track.
changes. Yeah,
exactly.
Right. You get some rubber down. Somebody gets off, especially here. They throw some dust on the track, or 10 pounds of dirt, as the case may be. And you go driving into that corner, and if you don't know that has happened, you hit your mark. Speaking of throwing dirt on the track, nice job, Cat, CDN. And you stick your tires there where you've been going for the last 20 laps. And step on the brakes, step on the gas, and the car does something you don't expect it to do. It gets unhappy.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It's very tough to get that right. Now, guys have asked me, even after you said it in the broadcast, I had somebody in the practice ask me about that, and I said I can give you the short answer, the short answer, and this is the idiot savant version of the answer. So many of you might not understand this, but let's say you got a 50-lap race. You go out and run 50 laps. You know, you see with one setup, another setup. You have to compare the times over the whole 50. When I pitted at 20 and I pitted at 40, what did that do? When I pitted at 15 and 35, what did that do? And you add up those numbers and you see where am I getting the fastest time overall? Because, like you said, your fastest lap might be a 1:13.0. You might have a car setup pace that runs a 1:13.2 or 1:13.3. That 1:13.0 will fall all the way back to a 1:15 when everything's worn out. That 1:13.3 will fall back to a 1:14 when everything's fallen out. And that makes a huge difference. And I can't tell you how many guys I've raced against over the years who've said to me, you know, where did you come from? Mm-hmm. And it's where I came from was I waited the race out until I saw the guys that I knew were burning things off. And I can tell you what, though, if you're these guys in the front 5, if you waited too long, they would have been long gone because they've run an excellent race. Super's trying to hold off McToasty, and they've got a 1-2 vet battle going for 4th place. Pogo's not far behind him. He had a bobble a couple laps ago that took away his gap. Muttley's still fighting Taijo, and we've also got my name Jeff and Harry fighting for 11th. Although I think Jeff has a fresh set of tires, so he should be able to get away from that, barring a mistake. Although Harry did pit as well, so they might both be going right at it. But right here's the closest battle on the track with 8 minutes to go. Super Crusher and Taijo, both of these guys. Let's see where they were at from last week. Super Crusher with a 13th last week, and Taijo was on the podium last week in 3rd. So this is definitely worth a lot in the points. So let's take a look at Immortalis' comment. That is an excellent point, Immortalis. Immortalis says if you switch to your race setup and run your last couple of laps in the qualifying session on that race setup, it resets your muscle memory. I've never heard it put that way before, but that is actually really brilliant. Spend the first 15 minutes getting your time down, and then at 5 minutes, come in, put the race setup on, go out and run it a few laps. Make sure everything feels how it should.
So anybody watching this, especially whether you're watching it live or in replay, if you didn't write that down, then shame on you. That was definitely a pro tip.
Oh yeah, that was definitely something. I've honestly, I've done that, not thinking about it before, but now that Immortalis put it into words, like, yeah, that's a good idea. You know, go ahead and get out there and get your muscle memory retrained for a couple laps, because the car is gonna change over time. These two are just right on top of each other. You want to get inside McToasty and see what he's seeing in that vet, because he's probably got a heck of a view here as he's trying to figure out how to get by Crusher. This is where you're going to see that air. Now this is where if I was McToasty, I would stay on that outside line through turn 9. We saw what happened earlier when somebody lost the air on the inside behind the car. And you see what he just did there. He burped the front. Whoa!
Oh!
Around he goes. He avoids the spinning Super Crusher.
Both of them. Oh!
And that was a big contact. No. We need to get on the wide camera. We got 2 or 3 cars that went around.
Oh my goodness.
Super Crusher went around, and I believe McToasty got contact with him. It might have been, I want to say that was Taijo, but somebody else got in there too. Pogo. Pogo might have been the one.
Body parts all over the track.
I was just going to say that McToasty did a pro's move there. Right as they entered the corner, he backed off just before the corner because he didn't want to be right on his tail coming through the apex and get that dirty air. But there's nothing you can do. Super lost it coming out of the corner, and he did everything right. He tried to hold his position and tried to hold his spot on the track and just spin and let everybody go around, but just couldn't quite make it. And what it looks like there is that McToasty spun it, and then I'm willing to bet it was maybe Pogo or Taijo. One of those other guys got right into him.
Yeah. T-boned him in the side.
T-boned him, yeah, right as whoever has that severe nose damage, that's going to be who that is. And they got it pretty bad, and, you know, that was probably what that is. That's it.
Oh, yeah, look at Pogo. Look at the front end on Pogo's car.
Yeah, McToasty obviously doesn't think he can drive it the last 5 minutes, so that's a shame. He had a really good finish going, and that was just a racing incident. So he's coming in to fix that car, and he's going to settle with that. Meanwhile, Taijo and Pogo, they're not far apart. Neither is Cat Guy and CDN Trooper up front in second and third, but it's Lecky's got a bit of a gap on these guys. These guys are falling back a little bit as this race has gone on. Yeah, McToasty's taking a big hit having to make that pit. That was just tough luck, but that's racing. You're going to see that at some point over the championship. But I was just saying, McToasty took that corner like a pro. He did the type of thing I preach to guys all the time. That's racecraft. Yes, you can go harder into that corner when you're not behind somebody, but when you're behind somebody, you might want 5 or 6 car lengths, because it's like, you'll hear me say this a million times in a couple of weeks when we get to Indianapolis or Texas in the stock cars or the Indy cars or running on the ovals. And I'll say, you don't want to catch somebody in the middle of turn 2 or turn 4. You don't want to catch them in the middle. If you're with them all the way through the turn and you're behind them, that's one thing. But if you've got clear air and you come through turns 1 or turns 3 and then suddenly get that air as you're exiting, it gives you a major understeer. And an understeer that'll turn into a snap oversteer when you try to overcorrect. And that's what McToasty appeared to be doing. He was trying to avoid that. And he was obviously, maybe he even saw that Super Crusher was loose when he was up behind him and said, I don't want to spin this guy out in front of me. And sure enough, nothing he could do about it. He went around.
Right, crossover move from behind, and that radical change on air on the nose. And it really was looking clean on the setup.
Pogo and Deadly Hawk has moved all the way back up to 7th. We got another car just retired. No, that's not McToasty. Somebody else is out. We're down to 14. But yeah, it looks like Deadly Hawk just made it past Pogo in that Porsche. Hawk has been in for the pits and has come back out, and I got to give him credit. He's had a heck of a drive coming back up from an early pit stop.
Well, and here again, it's the Porsche. You mentioned it earlier, and now with Pogo being
Damaged.
hurt,
Yeah.
kind of limping. The Porsche just keep it clean here with the last couple of minutes.
Let's see what he does. If he's in the 113s again, I might think he has a shot at, if anybody makes a mistake. No, he was coming through traffic. I don't know if he can move up without somebody's mistake, but if he can finish in that spot, that's been an excellent drive coming all the way back through the field. Yeah, Immortalis makes a good point. Pogo might not finish if there's enough damage to the radiator. The car will overheat. So he's just trying to hang on and get points. But let's go back up to Cat Guy and CDN as they're close enough on the track. Cat Guy's holding them off by a couple of seconds, but as you can see, they're running pretty close to the same lap times. Cat Guy with a second place finish at Daytona would obviously be the points leader after this race if he can finish in this position, with Lecky not far behind. CDN also did not have, I think he had a 6th place last week, so these guys are all putting themselves up into a real good place. But like you said, these tires are getting old. You might have a few scuffs and key parts on the car at this point. The car's really light as the fuel load's running down. And when you're in that position, it's very likely that you could send the car around. I'm thinking inside of 40 seconds. Let's see where Lecky's at on the track. He might be taking the white flag, and I believe this is going to be the white flag on lap 37. Lecky has taken the white flag.
Across the start-finish line, and he's off. He's off in the first corner.
He's got time to catch
his gigantic lead. And here comes Cat Guy.
That guy's moving up. That's a lap car right there. Those are 2 lap cars behind him. That's Pogo and Muttley that he just passed. But I think he's got enough of a gap that it's not going to hurt him. He's going right now, wiping that brow.
Did Lecky have a Mark Martin moment there?
Looks like it. I don't know if he thought the race was over, what it was, but yeah, he definitely thank God for that gap, because without that gap, he would have been caught. But it looks like Lecky, who has plenty of wins under the Flux Motorsport banner, might be getting his very first GTE championship win here on the Flux American Region Tour. As he's going to come around here, turn 9, and we'll just scroll back through them like this when they cross one shoe. But he's going to come across, and it looks like, yep, Lecky 2000 is going to come up from, I believe, a 3rd place starting spot to take the win at Willow Springs in the GTE. A tremendous drive. Cat Guy, meanwhile, holding about 3 seconds off on CDN. He's going to try to get his 2nd straight runner-up finish. It'll be back-to-back podiums for Cat Guy and should thrust him into the points lead. CDN Trooper, meanwhile, he's going to cross the line on the podium. A 3rd place run for him, and now it's going to be a little ways back. Super Crusher's back in 4th. He's got to give him credit. He's had a good race. He had that early trouble and has managed to come back from it. And that spin that I know he's apologizing to the guys behind him that got into the contact, but I honestly think Super Crusher did everything he could do there. He tried to keep it straight. Taijo brings it across in 5th to round out the top 5. And Taijo, I'm going to give you a little warning, man. You need to be careful, because on Willow Springs, if you miss the start-finish line outside in the sand, there are times where it'll disallow your lap doing that. So that could be we've seen that happen before. It can be a tough situation. Muttley, I think, is going to be happy with a 7th. This is not his best track, and Muttley's not a specialist at sports cars, but he definitely he pushed that guy a little wide, didn't he? Muttley got in there, but that's going to bring us to the finish here at Willow Springs International, round 2 of season 2021, season 1 of the GTE Championship. We've got Lecky 2000 taking that vet all the way to the victory. He comes up 16 seconds ahead of our runner-up finisher, Cat Guy, who will move that vet into the points lead. CDN Trooper comes home in 3rd and rounds out our podium. He'll get doused with some champagne Fourth place is Super Crusher, also in the bet, so it's Corvettes across the top 4. We've got our top finishing Ford in 5th. That was Taijo with a terrific run. Deadly Hawk, the highest finishing Porsche. I would say takes the unofficial Porsche Cup standings lead, and I have to give him credit for a great run getting it back up there.
Great run for the Porsche.
Absolutely. Muttley comes home in 7th with the Ford GT. Pogo Mojo, a tough luck day for Pogo. He was running for a top 5. He obviously had some tire trouble earlier, then got in that wreck and had to limp it out. But he's going to come home with decent points in 8th place. McToasty was hoping for a lot more. He was definitely a podium contender. He brings that vet home in 9th after taking that damage, so a hard luck race for him. And Jiggly Jello will round out our top 10, our final group here. My name Jeff coming home in 11th. Harry W finishes in 12th, a couple laps down. O'Brien, he had a hard luck race. He was quick early on. He had a long repair that took him out for a couple laps, so he's going to come home in 13th. Green Gaiman with a rough finish. He goes down in 14th, and Luke Snipes says he DQ'd, so he had some kind of problem there at the end at 31 laps. Luke had a good run going. He's going to finish up in 15th. I'm going to get our screenshots here, but that should just about do.
So amazing to see the top 7, no pit stops from the top 7 finishers. There's a lesson there somewhere.
Oh, absolutely. I would definitely say that those top 3 guys had the best setups on the car. They had cars that stayed on the track and were able to go. Our fastest lap, let's see if we can figure out. Our pole bonus went to...
I think that's Lecky, isn't it?
I believe it's Lecky, 112.4, 112.5, 112.1. O'Brien.
Ooh. O'Brien
nice. With a 112.143 is going to pick up the bonus point. The bonus point for the pole goes to Harry, but it's going to be Lecky 2000 who wins the day here at Willow Springs in the GTE Championship. Before we sign off, final thoughts, won't you?
Great race. I can't actually wait. I'm so looking forward to getting an Indy car. I'm not so much looking forward to getting into the stock car here, but bring the challenge. Proud to be part of Flux Motorsport, and nice to work with you again, Carlin. Thank you so much for inviting me in today.
Absolutely. My favorite color commentator guy to work with. And for the rest of you, step up. Knock one shoe off that pedestal. But one shoe is my favorite color guy to work with. But we'll from here at Willow Springs and Flux Motorsport, remind you to check out FluxMotorsport.com. It'll link you to the Discord where you can sign up and get involved in all the action, not just our championship races, but our public community rooms. Best place to find clean racing on the PlayStation Network, bar none. We also have the Flux store is up at FluxMotorsport.com. You can get all your swag. That went online today. We hope to see all you guys get on there and post your photos of your Flux swag when it gets shipped. But for my co-commentator One Shoe and all our drivers, Lecky 2000, congratulations again for the win at Willow Springs. We've got more racing this weekend. LMP2s will be tomorrow at 8 p.m. UK time, 3 p.m. Eastern. The Indy cars will be right back here tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern, 1 a.m. UK, as will the stock cars on Sunday. They will also be back here 8 p.m. Eastern, 1 a.m. UK. We've also got GT3 on Sunday at 8 p.m. UK time. So a full weekend of action, both stateside and in Europe. So for One Shoe, this is Carlin Hicks signing off from Flux Motorsport TV. We hope you enjoyed the broadcast, and we will see you tomorrow to broadcast LMP2 and IndyCar. Have a good night, guys.